I forgot how hard it was to make these things. I'm just gonna preface this now. If you hear any weird noises in the background, please forgive that. I cannot control what's happening in my environment right now. But hello and welcome to Ramadan Q&A number 2. I missed the mark for last week completely. I know that's 100% my fault. I was trying to stick to the schedule, but Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I was feeling out of it. I was not feeling fine at all. I was not healthy. I could feel myself falling sick, and I was focusing more on not falling sick because oh god, this video is not about my medical history, but I'm just gonna say this: me falling sick is not easy, and when I do, I'm on death row or something. So we didn't get much questions again, but this one's two are very easy, very simple. So the first one I got was from Grace Kim 1. She asked about the patterns of Ramadan and the word that I use for food that isn't allowed. So your friend said that Ramadan ends before summer. Yes, how can I say this? Maybe 3 years ago, Ramadan would end maybe in July or August, because then there was a long time period where Ramadan was just around my birthday. But because we followed the pattern of the moon, the lunar cycle, it shifts forward. So it keeps shifting forward, and now it's around June, and right now it's around my boyfriend's birthday, May, June. And next year, who knows, Ramadan may not even fall on June at all. It might be April, May. So that's how this thing keeps moving. It keeps shifting forward, because the earliest memory I can have was when Ramadan was around that December, November period, and it took 20 years for it now to shift up to June, May. So maybe, who knows, by the time I'm 40 it might be back in the December period again. And the word I used for food that isn't allowed is haram, Haram, and it's not only used for food that's not allowed. The word haram means anything that isn't allowed for a Muslim. Like killing is haram, incest is haram, you get the idea. But it's a word we tend to use for things that's just not allowed, and it's like, okay, there is no loophole, this thing is just not allowed. We have other words for other things. We have sunnah, which is things the prophet did that it's encouraged for people of our generation to do. I hope I'm not mixing it up, because I know it starts with N and I know it's sunnah, or maybe I'm just saying it in my own local language and that's not how it is in Arabic, but that's how I know the word to be. And there's another word for things that are more morally gray, like it could be haram, it couldn't be haram, depends on the situation. But if you just hear a Muslim say the word haram, that it is not allowed, like drinking alcohol is haram. But I hope you understood that. The next question we have is from That Crazy Furball, which says they've heard that some people get punished for showing anything that the hijab is supposed to cover. Now, this year, unlike last year, I'm trying to give more information that is more personal to me instead of information that I research. So what I say is actually what I know. So in terms of getting punished, I won't be surprised if there are places in the world that actually punish women for not covering up, maybe Indonesia or someplace like that, because some places are highly oppressive, highly backwards. But where I come from, it's not really a thing. Like, your parents might tell you cover up, but it doesn't result in beating. It depends on the household. You know, every household has its own differences. Like maybe some households in America, parents beat their kids, and some don't. Here you have some parents who will get physical with their children for not obeying them, and some don't. So it's the same thing there. So just wearing the hijab or not is not a factor in whether you get beaten or not, but it could be a reason. But my parents don't do that. I live in the centralist zone of my country. So I think we have a healthy mix of Christians and Muslims. So a lot of the Muslims are not as strict with their kids to cover up and all that stuff, but it's still there. You still have to cover your hair, but you can wear a t-shirt, you can wear jeans within limitations. But the farther up north you go, I'm a northerner, hail the north, Game of Thrones, I've always wanted to make that joke, and I'm gonna make it again in the future. we farther up north you go, it's more Islamic, it's more strict. If you go outside without your hair covered, you can have people cursing you, you can have elders yelling at you, but I don't think they will beat you. You just get seriously reprimanded. But yeah, no beating. And the further south you go, you see the Muslims there are just so wild and crazy, like you cannot even tell a Muslim from a Christian. So that's how it is on my side of the world. But I will not be surprised that there are places where you will get punished for going out without the hijab. Maybe the Middle East, I think it's like a law there to cover up. Next we have the Wise Group Gaming, who drove me mental with the reveal of Australia breaking their fast at 5 p.m. I actually read it at 5 a.m. I thought that's when they started fast, but then I was like, no wait, he said p.m. and that's iftar. What the hell? And then they asked me what are my thoughts on the hijab. A lot of hijab related questions this week. Well, I think one of the reasons why I was not so adamant to get this video out was because I'm gonna show the conversation here. I had somebody come up to my video and go completely insane about what I said when I said the hijab covers someone's beauty. They were like, no, this, that, and I know I shouldn't have stooped so low with somebody, especially when I was fasting, because towards the end I was not fasting, that's why I started throwing insults. But I thought I was talking to a reasonable person, but this person was just somebody who was just so drenched in their ways and was just so rigid. And that's the thing about the hijab, it has so many connotations. Some people see it as a form of oppression, some people see it as religious, some people see it as their own expression, and some people see it as law. And this person obviously sees it as law. Like, there are some people who when they're growing up, their parents would tell them something, and as they go out into the world and they receive something other than that, they get defensive, like, no, it's this way, there is no other way. And I was bringing facts to this person and telling her, okay, look, I am saying it like this, but there is also that. And they're like, no. I brought people, they're like, she basically just says, all these people don't understand Islam. And I'm like, oh, so you're the only person that's right in this argument. So at the end of the day, I just had to let it go, because it was just so pointless. Because I was either arguing with a 15-year-old because they were so eager to get the last word in, even though it didn't make any sense. But my own thoughts on the hijab is, how can I even say this? We Muslim women are supposed to cover their hair. That's it. I wear a veil and cover my hair. I don't cover the rest of my body. That's how I work, because I'm just supposed to cover my hair. So if you choose to wear the hijab, good for you. If you don't, you might have your reasons. I think my mom, or is it this person that said, yeah, in the Quran, or like God ordained us to cover up. But the thing about being a Muslim is that you are supposed to ask questions. It's like one of the basics of the religion. You're supposed to know why you do things, because if you just follow blindly, you are just a sheep and you don't know why you're doing it. But when you learn why, the values of doing it, you can more, how can I say, adamantly defend your stance and your opinion. And when someone comes at you, you know what to say, and you don't just say, it's because I was told to do so. Why? That means you're just basically a Muslim because you are raised to be one, but at heart you are not one, because you don't even know why you are one. So when some women see them not cover their hair, I don't know the reasons why for doing that, but they obviously have a good reason, and they obviously have their own mentality towards it. And I don't want to come up here and be like, this Muslim women should not wear hijabs, they're oppressed, or Muslim women should only wear hijab, that's the right thing to do. I cannot speak for any of you. I can only speak for myself, and myself being, I do not wear the hijab. I wear a veil to cover my hair as per it was instructed. And sometimes I don't wear the veil and I go out with my hair open. But there's an asterisk next to that, going out with my hair open, because I'm an African, so sometimes I do braids, like different styles, extension of hair. Well, I don't fix my hair, I just put hair extensions as braids. And unless you're an African, you won't understand. So when I go out and I leave my hair open in that state, I am not showing my hair, I am showing hair extensions. And recently too, I started buying wigs because they're like super dope, and the wig is not my hair, so I can go out with those things, but the outside world sees it as my hair is open, but you are not seeing my hair. So there is a lot of gray area, and it just depends on how you feel about the topic. But I think I stayed on this question a little too long, and I've expressed enough anger. But my thoughts on the hijab: it is good, it is allowed, you should wear it, but it is more complicated than one video can ever explain. Minecraft Minan wanted to know how people of different religions act towards one another where I'm from, and our views on atheism. Okay, let's just dive right in. Okay, so like I explained before, the north is mostly Muslims and the south is mostly Christians, and the central part is mixed, but there are Christians in the north and there are Muslims in the south. But because you live in that kind of place, some Muslims become more free and open from living in the south, and some Christians become more reserved and shy and timid from living in the north. It just comes from the difference of religion, but we interact with each other, we talk to each other. It's not something of, okay, you're you, you're me. Like, there are people who obviously segregate and hate you, but the segregation comes more from culture than religion, because where I come from, there are three main ethnic groups: Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo, and I am Hausa. And also Hausa people have dominated the north, Yoruba people are in the south, and Igbo people are east. So if you see a Hausa Christian, there is a higher chance you will befriend that person and become close to them than if you see a Yoruba Muslim. How can I say this? Because they're from the south, because there's just a lot of cultural segregation between people. But at the end of the day, I don't discriminate, but I know there's a lot of people who cannot fathom having Igbo friends or cannot fathom having Yoruba friends. They can only have Hausa friends, and even if they're Christian, they can have them. And there's some people who will not befriend anyone outside their religion or culture. That's just how it is, and I'm no exception to the rule. I also have friends, Muslim friends, who will befriend anybody. Like I said, that my Christian Catholic friend that was my roommate, she's Igbo, she's from the east, and people just saw us as this weird thing. Like, how can this Hausa northern Muslim be such close friends with this Eastern Christian Igbo? And I will preface and say I go the extra mile to be friends with people that are not from my culture, because I really don't like Hausa people at all. I don't like my tribesmen at all. But it just depends. If you're a nice and funny person, I'll befriend you. But most of the time I find Hausa people to be annoying and snobbish, so I tend to befriend other people. And yeah, I think I can say that's how I am, but I know there are other people like that. But at the same time, I am painfully aware that there's a lot of people who are not like that at all. Like, some Hausa girls might just not even want to talk to you, like, unless they have to borrow a pen or ask you a question, they will not talk to you or interact with you. And there are other people who are so nice. And then there are some people who it's because of the university I went to. It's also in the centralist. It's in the center of my country, so it's like one state over from my hometown. So a lot of people, maybe from all over the country, get sent there. So some people have never interacted with people from other tribes or other religions, and that's their first time. So they will be a little skittish, or they will be eager, because throughout my primary and secondary school, I was only surrounded by northern Muslim people. We only had like maybe one Christian or two Christians in the class. So it was till college that I actually got to interact with a lot of different cultures and religions, and I'm just a friendly person. And oh yeah, you wanted to know about atheism. Yeah, we don't know. Anytime I talk about it with parental figures or something, they're all doomed, they're all going to hell. The thought of not being religious is unfathomable over here. And if you hear me talking about just Christians and Muslims and not Jews, that's because there's no Jews over here at all. So yeah, the Christians will say you are damned, the Muslims will say you are damned. They're like, how can you think that God doesn't exist? And maybe because we live in a third world country, because there's this phenomenon where the more advanced the place is, the less supernatural things go on, because there's supernatural-ish happening here all the freaking time. And it's like, you'd have to be an idiot not to believe that there is something higher or something greater at work here. But then I look at American culture and everything, and I'm like, well, they live in a place where they just don't see the signs. So I don't blame them for not believing. But at the end of the day, I should blame them for not believing, because the chances of us being here like this is so astronomically impossible that it had to be by design. But he just wanted to know what people think about atheism, and it's just like, I don't think there are any atheists over here. I know I had a friend once who said they are Christian, but they don't believe in God, but they don't want to go to the afterlife and find out he's real, so he's just gonna say he's Christian, but personally he doesn't believe. And well, to that factor, he was somebody who grew up in, I think, Philadelphia or something, and came over here. So again, it's very unlikely to have someone who grew up here with everything that's going around that would be atheist. So a lot of us just see atheists abroad or in America as just crazy people. But I won't insult you or attack you for it, but I will try and convince you of it. So I personally don't hate atheists. I just feel sad for them, but a lot of other people just cannot even understand it. Grace Kim 1 also asked if there are denominations in Islam like in Christianity. So I think you're asking if there's like Anglican, Catholic, Protestant, Jehovah's Witness. So from what I can tell, I don't think there is, because Muslim is Muslim, but there are sometimes my mom will say Erika and Igala, and I hope I said that last one right, and I'll be like, okay, is this a Muslim thing or is this a cultural thing? Because Muslim and my culture are so intertwined that sometimes I don't even know where one begins and where one ends. But yeah, at the end of the day, there are, but again, it's so complicated, because with Christianity, it's like, okay, you are Catholic, but you can switch from Catholic to Anglican, but sometimes it's not allowed, sometimes it is allowed. But if you are one, you can only go to one church and one thing. But in Islam, it's like, you don't even know, because at the end of the day, you're all Muslims. I think the most it comes to is if you're part of one or the other, you only pray at different times of the day. Maybe for, we pray 5 times a day. So there's one in the afternoon, so there's 2 in the afternoon actually, one at around 1 o'clock and one at around 3 o'clock. So the one at around, let me use the one at 3 o'clock. You can pray at 3:30 or 4 o'clock. So the ones that pray at 3:30 are in a different category, and the one who pray at 4 o'clock are in a different category. So I think that's the most denominations I can say, but at the end of the day, I don't even know it, so I don't even think it's worth trying to say, because I just want to say Muslim is Muslim. And even in the last video, you saw somebody asking me Sunni and the other thing, I can't even remember, Sunni or Shia. But I just believe Muslim is Muslim. There's no differentiation, there's no him, her, that. We are all one. We are one. I watched Lion King 2 the other day. That song is stuck in my head. And finally, our last question is from Suriname X, who asked if I knew about the Punish a Muslim Day. Yeah, I heard about it on Twitter. People were going insane. For those of you who don't know, Punish a Muslim Day was this thing. Somebody sent out like invitation cards to different people in the UK, and it was basically like a day where random citizens are supposed to punish Muslims for our crimes against humanity, I guess. And it had different point system, like if you rip off a hijab, 500 points, if you do this, so how about my points, like just basically. And then a lot of Muslims online were also afraid. Some people are afraid to go out with their hair open, some people thinking they'd cut off their beard, because a lot of people thought they were going to get attacked and beaten and brutalized, and it was just chaos. People countering it, people saying that it was just a mess. But then the day came and nothing happened. And it was just funny. And I don't know, I was actually expecting something to happen. I was like, I wish a person would, but nothing happened, because yeah, people are cowards at the end of the day. Whoever sent it was just probably, maybe they had the intention and they thought, yeah, we're gonna rally people, we're gonna do this, but then nothing happened. Or maybe because of the mass hysteria online, people were too afraid. And then you'd see there was this article of acid thrown on 3 Muslims, and I was sharing it and I thought it was real till I realized it was fake, because I was having an argument with somebody on Twitter who was basically telling me my religion is the devil, is evil. But as somebody who, I don't know, doesn't like hiding things, I promptly told them, okay, I'm sorry, I was given misinformation, this news article is not real. And I don't know if they praised me for that, because they're like, okay, at least you admitted you were wrong. But nothing happened that day. But yeah, I knew about it, and it wasn't the best thing to I don't know, wait for. Because the idea, yeah, I know Muslims have done a lot in the world that has really hurt a lot of people, but like I said last year, it's when people identify them as Muslims that it is the problem. Because a lot of Muslims around the world denounce them and don't agree with them and try and distance themselves from it, but the media will constantly be associating us with it, that it's a problem. But the moment if there's a school shooting or something, they won't say it's a Christian or it's Jew or it's something. They'll say it's a crazy person, it's this, it's that. And one of my friends explained to me saying, well, if somebody goes and shoots up a school, they won't say it's because of God, so it's the same thing. And I'm like, yeah, but that still shouldn't be a factor. Just because this person says, okay, I'm going to do this in the name of my religion, shouldn't mean that you should accept that because they are a crazy person. They will say that because, how can I say this? In Islam, there is a certain phrase or a way of saying, some Muslims believe if I do this thing for God, or if I say this phrase, but I'm not going to say it now because I don't even want to associate it with those devil people, they feel I will go to heaven. So they go and do this thing and say, I am doing this for Islam, I'm doing this for God, I'm doing this for this, and then they do the action and maybe they die afterwards because they feel, okay, I've said this, I've done this, I'm going to heaven. And that's what they believe. But I don't know if it's the same for Christians, if they have that same phrase or mentality or ideology. So when a Muslim comes out and says these things, they are not trying to associate themselves with anything. They are trying to secure the afterlife, thinking they will go to heaven, and they're trying to justify their actions, which is super annoying to the nth degree. But I will just preface this by saying, if you who is listening, who has reached this far, if you can take anything away from this, is just to understand all these evil Muslims and people who do suicide bombing and mass killings, they do not care. They are twisting this thing around so much so to suit their evil, negative and toxic agenda. And what they're doing is not Islam. And I just pray one day the media will finally understand that and stop pushing this false as all hell narrative. Because I know a lot of Christians denounce the Westboro Baptist Church, whatever you call it, Westboro Baptist Church. But that still doesn't stop some people from associating them with the church. But a lot of people have removed them. A lot of people have removed them from Christianity. But that's just all I'm just gonna say. I'm really sick, I'm really tired, and this video is super duper long, but I hope you enjoyed. I'm sorry if I sound so monotone and dead, I'm trying. But if you have any more questions, let me know. This time I'll actually try and get it out by this Friday, but I'm not gonna try and kill myself to stick to that schedule. I'm just trying to make a promise. But with that being said, my dear sweet lovely viruses, thanks y'all so much for clicking to watch. Please don't forget to read my books on Wattpad, support my Patreon, and follow me on Twitter. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and stay forever awesome. This is TVC signing out.